Welcome to the Daily Dharma, a gentle podcast where we read a philosophical story every week and reflect on how it relates to everyday life. Our focus is to use Buddhist philosophy to understand the complexity of modern life and find achievable and accessible pathways to peace and happiness. Hi everyone, welcome to the Daily Dharma. In this episode, we'll be talking about the ordinary truth, how everyday ordinary life gives us an opportunity to seek the truth in a very authentic and down-to-earth way. The story that we'll be reflecting on this theme is called Worn Out Sandals, and it comes from the book Zen Stories with Master Seiji by Daiki Shimada. Here is how the story goes. Seiji was visiting a nearby temple, a place where the air hummed with the quiet intensity of devoted practice. His purpose was simple: to reunite with an old friend. As he walked through the serene temple grounds, a new monk approached him, an earnest look etched across his face. This monk, a spiritual seeker, had heard of Seiji's arrival and sought to ask a question that had been burning within him. "I've been searching for my true self, Master Seiji. How do I find it?" he asked, his eyes earnest. Seiji paused and glanced around, his eyes finally resting on a pair of old sandals, worn and dirty, lying in front of the entrance. "Do you see those sandals?" he asked, pointing towards them. The monk nodded, perplexed by the sudden shift in topic. "Every day," Seiji began, "a monk puts on those sandals, walks these temple grounds, engages in chores, and interacts with others. Those sandals, in their simplicity, carry the monk throughout his day, grounding him in his actions and experiences." The young monk listened intently, trying to grasp the lesson hidden within Seiji's words. "Your search for the true self," Seiji continued, "is like the journey of those sandals. It is not about finding something new or reaching a distant place. Instead, it's about becoming fully present in the ordinary, embracing each step, each moment for what it is. Your true self is not hidden away in the depths of complex meditation or the pages of ancient texts. It is here in the simplicity of life's everyday actions." The monk considered this, his mind wrestling with the notion. "So, my true self is found in the ordinary?" "Yes," Seiji affirmed with a smile. "In the same way those sandals touch the ground, let your mind touch each moment of your life fully." As Seiji walked away, the monk saw his own search reflected in the worn sandals. This is probably one of the most realistic and earnest stories in this book, because I find that who isn't searching for their true self, the version of ourselves that is energetic, honest, is able to stay calm and patient during frustrating situations, how we all wish that we can simply be and embrace our true self without having looking for that true self. But I have to say, in my own exploration, the true self doesn't quite really exist, because the self that you are right now is your most true and authentic self. The self is not a destination, as Seiji was saying, that we can arrive at and simply occupy. We simply have to grow and evolve and work to change our perspectives, our intentions, our behaviors, our lives every single day, and actually stay with the ordinary in order to feel extraordinary about our lives. I also found that the story had many parallels to how people see going on vacation. Especially when I was younger, I always thought going on vacation, getting on a plane, being in an airport, these are just exciting things. And I'm not saying that they're not. But I think expecting myself and expecting life to be fundamentally different just because I've changed my environment is not going to happen. And this has often led to disappointment in me, because when I touch down, I expect life to feel different. And it does, but only when you've just arrived and you haven't adjusted to life there. But instead of expecting our environment to change us, expecting classes or people or books to change us, what if we realize that the true instrument of change is our own selves? And the greatest and most important change that happens is what occurs when we actually pay attention to the ordinary, the everyday. And this kind of very much goes to the heart of the podcast and why I feel like the Dharma is something that needs to be reflected on and observed daily. Because I think that's where my greatest breakthroughs and insight, that's where my greatest evolutions and transformations within myself have happened. It's always in the ordinary, such as how I approach a conversation that usually causes conflict. It could be in how I begin my day, or how I view journaling, not just as a way to put words on paper, but as an invitation for me to open up about what's honestly going on within myself so I can understand myself better. The journey to the self is really a journey to understanding you as you are, not to necessarily change or make yourself into something that you actually like. Because the truth is, if you are unable to really love and honestly love and accept yourself as you are, it becomes impossible to change or evolve or grow. Because we are always dealing with the burden of the anxiety, the self-doubt, the pain of having that unfulfilled true self hanging over us. And that is a very heavy burden to bear. To have to simultaneously juggle the idea of your true self and also the disappointment in your actual self is often a very self-destructive path. But when we realize that the true self is how we are right now, and that self changes every single day, your body, your mind, everything is changing every single day, we can have a lot more compassion for ourselves when we react differently to the same situations or when things frustrate us more. In general, this idea of clinging to any one version of ourselves really does cause deep pain. I mean, I even see that in my own life, where if I have a version of myself that I label as my true self, and if I keep myself to that version, and then one day I'm unable to fulfill that for one reason or another, I feel so disappointed in myself because I keep comparing myself to that standard or version that probably never really existed in the first place. But what's much harder, but what is really helpful, is realizing that whatever I am right now is the true self. And in accepting that, that is really where you can actually become comfortable enough with yourself to really sit and understand who you really are, how you really work, what is this life that you're living, and why are different things causing you suffering and pain. It's almost like you want to become your own guide, your own coach, your own best friend. And when you're able to do that, you don't have to run away from yourself anymore. You can simply sit with yourself and understand what's going on. And from that understanding stems understanding of all things, because we all have the same level of impermanence, of change. So many of the truths that apply to us, apply to other people, applies to the universe. And that's why when you understand yourself more, when you really immerse yourself in the ordinary details of your life, that's where the growth and the learning and the journey really begins. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you have any thoughts or questions you'd like to share, please email me at dailydharmapodcast@gmail.com. And may you have a beautiful, safe, and joyful week ahead of you. Until next week.